Hello everybody. In the current affairs this week, the week ended 3rd of November 2024. First of all, a happy Diwali and a happy new year Samvat 2081. The topic of discussion everywhere across the world, even in the economic circles, was the US elections. The US is going for elections this Tuesday, and the main contenders, as we all know, are Donald Trump from the Republican Party and Kamala Harris from the Democratic Party. Republicans all these years have been friendly to the business leaders and the major business entities in the US, and they have been accordingly funded majorly by the major businesses in the US. This year, this election is also not different. Donald Trump has said that he is going to reduce the corporate taxes significantly, and that is going to benefit bigger corporates. One thing which he has said is that he is going to impose harsher tariffs on China. The way the things are is that during his last tenure in his presidency, he has imposed a lot of tariffs on China, and the Biden administration, who took charge thereafter, have continued, and they even have imposed tariffs on several of the items which got added. But now there is another round of tariff hikes which are being proposed by Donald Trump if he comes into power. But like every other businesses and every other country who are efficient in manufacturing, in one way or another, they will creep in the country in which they see that there is an advantage. So is the case with China. China has shifted a lot of its manufacturing in Mexico. At least 22 of the major Chinese companies have been operating from Mexico, and they have set up their manufacturing facilities out there. Companies like BYD and Chery International, which are major manufacturers of automobiles, have shifted their plants in Mexico. The advantage of being in Mexico for China is that there is a trade agreement between US, Mexico and Canada, which gives concessional tariffs to goods which are imported from Mexico. So efficient manufacturing can in one way or another creep it into another country by one route or another. This is not just something which we can assess out of what is being discussed insofar as US is concerned, but it is also a lesson for India. It is always discussed and said that China plus one strategy is going to help India. Yes, it is definitely going to help, but we will have to shore up our efficiency insofar as manufacturing is concerned. Otherwise, countries like China might creep in one way or another into the markets which are the consuming markets. So efficiency is the key, and tariff is a short-term measure. Swiggy, which is a company which got into light along with Zomato into food delivery business, this week, or rather the coming week, they are going to go for an IPO. During the deliberations in the IPO, the founders have said that the quick commerce business is going to be much more and much bigger than the food delivery business for which they have been known till now. So this is the kind of trend change which is going to happen in the Indian economy. When there is some news of some kind of an irregularity in India, there is a lot of discussion, there is a lot of things which are being said about those companies, those groups, those banks or those institutions that they have been, and there is a lot of way in which it is put in bad light. But in the US, some of the most respected institutions, like say JP Morgan, paid a fine of 151 million US dollars on account of the complaint settlement amount which it paid to the Securities Exchange Commission in the US. There were several complaints by investors and several entities which had financial dealings with JP Morgan, and in order to settle those complaints, they paid this amount. RBI, as we all know, has been very strict, very vigilant on the entire banking and financial market activities. It is really encouraging to note that on account of the restrictions and the risk weight norms which have been imposed by the RBI, year-on-year basis, there is a 64% reduction in the number of new credit cards being issued. So this is the way RBI is vigilant, and it is to our satisfaction that such kind of a regulator is taking care of our financial markets. GST collections in the month of October have been higher by 9% to the extent of 1,87,000 crores. This is the second highest collection ever in India in respect of GST collection in any of the months till date. The reflection of this buoyancy in the Indian economy was seen in the way the Indian capital markets or Indian stock markets performed. The Nifty 50 was up by 0.5%, Nifty mid cap was up by around 2%, and the Nifty small cap was up by around 6%. This was despite the fact that FIIs were sellers to the extent of more than 14,000 crores and DIIs were buyers to the extent of 10,000 crores. We have been discussing that FIIs as a tactical move have been sellers in the Indian markets and they have been buyers in the Chinese markets on account of the way the valuations of Chinese stocks are. This is a trend which is not just limited to the FIIs. Ace investor Vijay Kedia recently on the television program said that he has even trimmed his certain positions in Indian stocks and he is buying Chinese stocks which he thinks that they have been consistently down since last at least 15 years. So this kind of a tactical action is something which is common with stock market players. Crude this week was down by around 4% and Nasdaq and S&P 500 each were down by around 1.5% each. This is all for the week. Thank you so much.